right, this is for Algebra 2, 5B-1, numbers 4 and 5. And again, we are working on adding and subtracting fractions, so we must have a common denominator. And so what we're going to do is they always want what the other one has. This guy says, I want an x plus 2. If he's got it, I want it. So we're like, okay. So we're going to give him an x plus 2. But if you do it on the bottom, you have to do it on the top. Okay? Notice I'm putting them in parentheses. Same thing goes for this guy. He's like, well, he has an x plus 3. I want an x plus 3. So we're going to give him an x plus 3. Now, we have two fractions that have the same denominator. So we can make the 2 into one big fraction. So they have the same denominator here. All right, so all you're going to do is distribute your 3x in. So be careful. You got 3x times x is what? 3x squared. We got 3x times 2, which is 6x. Now be careful. Whenever you're subtracting, you know, a little red flag needs to be real careful that go off. This is not just a 2x, it's a negative 2x, and you're going to distribute that in. So I want you to think about that. That's going to be a negative 2x squared. Okay? And this is a negative 2x times 3, which is going to give you a negative 6x. Okay? Now, I like that because my 6x's cancel. 3x squared minus 2x squared is just a 1x squared all over your common denominator. So it looks just like that. Okay? Doesn't simplify down too good, but there you go. All right, let me do one more here. This is number 5, and number 5 is really tricky, so I wanted to be sure and do that. First of all, this looks like it's written backwards. Typically, you're going to always see your x term first. So let me give you a little trick. You can write this the other direction. Notice that negative x became a positive x, and that positive 3 became a negative 3. So basically, I switched everything. The reason you can only do this if you then switch this sign. So had it been a minus, I would have made it a plus. Because it's a plus, I'm going to make it a minus. So the only way you can switch this order is if you change that sign. Because I want you to think about this. If you would distribute that minus sign in there, does everybody see that's a negative x? And that's what I started with. And this is a negative 3, which is a positive 3. So that's a little trick. If you've got them in the wrong order, switch it and then change that sign. All right, that's an x squared, which is telling me you better factor it. So let's see here, x times x is x squared. And can you think of factors of negative 6 that add up to a negative 1? And I'm like, yep. Negative 3 times a positive 2, you multiply that, that gives you a negative 6. If you add those, you get negative 1. And thankfully now, that looks a lot. Look, that has an x plus 2. I'm like, ooh, he wants an x minus 3 though. So I'm like, okay, I can do that. So I'm going to give him an x minus 3. This one has an x minus 3 just like that. So he wants an x plus 2. So I'm like, okay, let's give you an x plus 2. And again, as long as you are consistent, whatever you do to the bottom, you do it to the top, you'll probably be fine. So look, I have 3 ugly fractions, but now they all have the same denominator. So I can write this as one big fraction. Here's my lovely common denominator. So let's see what we get. We're going to take 7 and we're going to distribute it in there. What does that give you? 7x minus 21? Be careful, that's not just a boring 4, it is now a negative 4 because we had to switch it. So think, that's going to give me a negative 4 times x is a negative 4x. And a negative 4 times 2 is going to make that a negative 8. Woo! Another minus sign. Be careful, because you're not only subtracting the 2x, so let me come down here, but you're also subtracting a 1. So that's going to do that. Whenever you subtract, let me say this again, it's going to change all those signs. It was a positive 2x, now it's a negative 2x. It was a positive 1, now it's a negative 1. So combining like terms, let me see, 7x minus 4x is 3x, minus 2x is 1x. That's negative 21 minus 8 is negative 29, negative 30, all over your common denominator. And that should do it right there. Can't get much harder than that.